Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Fair Game Laguna. Welcome, Mayor. Nice to have our Mayor, Alex Rounaghi, here. We got a real treat for us this morning.
Yes.
Joining us in the big time here is our Mayor Pro Tem, Mark Orgel. Mark, good to see you too. How
Good
are
to
you
see you.
doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mayor, good to see you.
Great to see you, Tom.
First of all, let me just touch real quick. I know you just jumped out of town for a couple of days, went up and saw your brother graduate from the fire academy in
Correct.
the northern part of the country. And how was that?
It was good. I was up in Seattle and he graduated from the fire academy up there. He's going to start out as a firefighter at Vashon Island. And so it was inspiring to hear the words of, during the presentation about, they talked about how firefighters, everything we do in life, right? When we go to a restaurant, we can go on Yelp and see the reviews of it. But when you have a medical emergency or a fire, you don't get to check who's coming. There's a monopoly in a sense, and that really speaks to the importance of our firefighters because when they come, we have no other option. So we really depend on them to be, high performing individuals who are willing to put themselves above their service above themselves. So it's just a reminder of the importance of our public safety officials.
So I'm assuming this was your brother. I'm assuming your parents went up. Were they
Yes,
finally happy to see one of their kids become successful?
exactly.
Was that
Exactly.
a big turning point?
It
I mean, the
was.
other one took a bad path and went down and became mayor of one of the most beautiful towns in the country. So being a firefighter has to be bigger than that.
Yes, exactly.
Good.
The pay is a lot better, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, it's good to have you here. One of the things I wanted to talk to both of you about is Alex and I regularly get on here and we talk about different issues, and you've been a big part of a number of issues in recent times in their development in Laguna Beach. Probably none more so than with Visit Laguna Beach, something you've been a champion of for the last number of years. Um, we just went through and had a new bid to fund that organization put through, which was passed. And then also, we're doing a little change of direction. A lot of concern in town about what's the direction of Visit Laguna Beach. We're focusing on stewardship. Talk about that. And with the big 4th of July weekend ahead of us, is there anything we see that changes, or is it too soon?
No, I think that you'll see some modest efforts to, change a few things. Mainly, what we're referring to as surge. So that would be ticketing, parking, drinking, smoking, things of that nature. I think that you'll see an improved effort to pick up trash on the beach. The city's, efforts to clean up trash. We're, patrolling the beach heavily with our rangers, lifeguards, and we have also been working with the Laguna Beach Ocean Foundation, and we've actually were able to get them some more funding to increase the number of docents that are on the tide pools. There's a big effort there to do a better job monitoring the tide pool. So I think you will see some improvements. It really just depends on the volume this year. Last year we were hit really hard, and seemed to be a pretty dramatic increase last year. And this year we'll just have to see if it increases. I was reading not long ago that in the next number of years there could be 187,000 homes over the hill. We know we have the great park that's going to be, which was news to me a couple of weeks ago, the largest park in the United States. So that, I'm concerned about, the changes that are happening over the hill. And I just think that it's time for us to get in and start having the discussion to figure out how we can best manage this increase, and, have it have as minimal impact on us as possible.
Great, great. So, Mayor, you've worked closely with the Mayor Pro Tem on a number of issues, one being the promenade, another issue that's been on the books lately that you've been discussing are the fire station. Both of those have come up for appeal now again. Um, talk a little about where the standing of both of those are.
Yeah, and before I get to that, I just want to say, so when I first announced, and I remember Tom, it was a last minute decision when I announced for city council, and then so Mark Orgill's like, who's this guy, Alex Rounaghi, this young guy, and so we had coffee, and I recall that conversation. He just went on and on about stewardship, and what's really cool is that that's sort of the direction that he's been able to implement as part of Visit Laguna is moving towards that stewardship approach. And what I like, the line that Mark uses that I really like is that when the residents are happy, the visitors are happy too, because really the goal of Visit Laguna, as you know, Tom, is not to attract day trippers. There's no incentive, or even legally not even really what they're mandated to do. They're mandated to look at how do we increase the number of people who stay at our hotels, and that's the goal. And so by having stewardship, by whether it's with our tide pool dozens, whether it's more enforcement and protecting our environment and the arts, which are what make Laguna Beach unique, that's really the direction we're heading. So that's why it's important. It's a nuanced topic that I think easily can get lost in the social media age that we are in today. But it's very important that we really, talk about the nuances. And then, yeah, to your point, Tom, we learned earlier this week that both the approval of the fire station and the approval of the promenade have both been appealed to the California Coastal Commission. And so we're very confident that we base the findings for those decisions off the relevant coastal development permit criteria. So I'd be very shocked if the Coastal Commission were to, make a finding of substantial issue. With that being said, it's really important, especially from a public safety perspective, that we get that fire station built as quickly as possible. So it is disappointing that that was appealed, but that is the process that we have to deal with. And so, the next step is figuring out how we can collaborate with coastal staff and move forward on that appeal as quickly as possible. Because I think the idea that the Coastal Commission would get involved in stopping the construction of a fire station that's badly needed and has been needed for years is really something that is not good for residents.
So appeals and disagreement is nothing new to Laguna Beach. Seems like which signifies that people in town really care about the direction, and they may agree with us, they may disagree with us, whatever, but there are a lot of opinions out there. My question is this: when we put something out there, the promenade, the fire station, whatever, and we get a lot of discussion in town. We get a lot of people showing up at council meetings. They can go on for hours talking about the pluses and minuses. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I'm interested in both of your opinions on that.
You
You
start.
want me to? Okay, I think it's a good thing, and I think it's ultimately made Laguna, been how we've evolved and made us what we are. So I think it's a good thing. I think the challenge that we have nowadays, especially with the internet, is keeping the information straight. And I think that the city can do a better job at, getting in there and really making an effort to make sure that people are presented with the facts and adequate information. I think if we can, I know it's a national issue, it's a global issue, right? Misinformation, and we're struggling with it now. And I think it's unfortunate, and I think that it prevents us from moving a lot of very, very important conversations forward. The stewardship is an example. I think that we have some real conversations that need to be had to, recognize what we need to do as far as managing what the inevitable. And unfortunately, I think that some of the misinformation has misled some people and distracted them from participating in the conversation. Uh, so anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Mark stated it well that there's really nothing wrong with disagreement. That's what makes Laguna Beach unique. It's part of our democratic process, and I think it's very important that everyone has a chance to be heard and that they're listened to, and that we try to understand their perspective as we make as decision makers. But there's sometimes I hear commentary that the goal should be to have unanimity behind the decision, that everyone in the community has to agree, or else we can never move forward. But if we apply that to our history, we wouldn't have a Suzy Q. That was something that there were a lot of people who were against. We wouldn't have the montage, which was, I think, multiple referendums that were very close. And, now it's universally agreed. I think that the montage is a great thing. We wouldn't even have Main Beach Park at the time. It didn't get two-thirds of the vote for a bond twice. And, ultimately through the Festival of the Arts, we were able to, there was a way to pay for that. But this whole idea that you can't move forward unless there's unanimity is sort of just in contrast with democratic principles where, where the electorate at large gets to pick people. And I think with the promenade, the vast majority of residents support it. There are some people who don't, and we respect those people, and they have a right to appeal it. But that shouldn't mean that the community is, I don't think it's a 50-50 divide. I think it's I think a strong majority supports it. So I think to your question, Tom, it is important that everyone has a voice and that they are heard. But at the same time, what the residents want us to do is they want us to make decisions. They want us to move this town forward. Because I think that's actually, I think I probably hear most from everyday residents is just a frustration of how slow everything is and how nothing seems to change sometimes in this town. And I get their frustration. So it's important that we are both, collaborative and understand the perspectives of those who we might have a different opinion on certain issues with, while at the same time moving forward in a way that brings this town forward and addresses the problems and prepares us for the next 100 years of our great city.
So I'm a proponent of what's planned for the promenade. I think it looks exciting. I think it looks like a great gathering spot. I think it's going to be a uniter of downtown, and I think, but I also understand the people that are in opposition to it. Like, should there be parking in front of businesses? Should there be flow of traffic and everything? So I understand that kind of discussion. Fire station puzzles me just a little bit more. What were the things that were appealed about the fire station that people have issue with?
I don't know, Mark, have you read the appeal? I haven't read the appeal, so I don't know what the basis of that is. But when I look back at when I think back about the public hearing on that, I don't see a lot of issues of coastal development that would be of concern. So I'm a little bit puzzled by that one as well.
Okay.
From what I understand, it's access off Coast Highway, Alex, and also some aesthetic issues.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I commend you both because I think part of the job of being an elected official is listening to people in the community, and I know each one of you value that and take the time to talk to a lot of people. So good stuff. Um, this week we've got a lot of tourism coming to town. The 4th of July. We'll have a fireworks show in Heisler Park. How about some advice, words of advice on your resident in town? Lots of people in town, big fireworks show. What are your words of advice, Mayor?
I mean, I think enjoy it. Tomorrow is a reminder of our great country, right? The signing of the Declaration of Independence, which was one of the greatest acts in in world history, because what we did is as a country, we decided that we don't want to be governed by a king. We want to be governed through, not a democracy, not a monarchy, but a republic, in the words of Benjamin Franklin, if you can keep it. And so I think it's just a reminder of what a great country that we have. And locally what it's good that we have the fireworks are back. We don't have a drone show this year, so the dogs might not be as happy, but I think the public at large is very happy with that. And I look forward to celebrating our country and with our community. So I don't know, Mark, do you have any advice for the residents?
Well, I think you just mentioned the dog, so I would just recommend that people find ways to try to keep their animals from getting overly uh, excited. Really, is the and if there could be some refrain from illegal fireworks. I happen to live near downtown, and they've already started. I don't know who it is that has it, but every night they've been going off for the last several nights. So refraining from illegal fireworks and trying to protect your animals and getting them, comforted so they can deal with the noise.
I think that's a great issue on the illegal fireworks. All these cities around us use it as a fundraising tool for their different programs in town. And so they sell them. That does not mean they're legal
No,
to bring them here into Laguna Beach. Safe and sane, none of them are legal. And just the reminder is, and the scary thing is, particularly a place like Laguna Beach, one firework that goes astray potentially is so hazardous to
yep.
this community. And I think, yeah, the fun of 4th of July. Oh, let's shoot off fireworks. Let's have a great time. let's get everybody together, let's do some crazy stuff and everything like that. It's that one time that something bad can happen that people really need to think about before they get out and do that kind of stuff.
We have
Exactly.
tremendous fire risk, and so we will, enforce and prosecute anyone who breaks the law with fireworks, but also just from a moral perspective, takes aside the legal issue. As you just said, Tom, all it takes is one firework to create a deadly situation that could be catastrophic for our whole community. So we all have to understand that and abide by the law.
So, do we expect on enforcement in town to be heavier? I mean, will there be more police on duty out on the streets? Are the firefighters actually out in town? What do you expect from city leadership?
Yeah, Mark, go ahead. My understanding is there is a surge presence on the 4th of July, but Mark, I think you could probably speak more of this as you've been involved in these conversations.
Yeah, there the officials will be deployed. So we have the Rangers, we have and the police department. There won't be any of the docents out during the 4th of July. And the fire department will, they do have procedures during the 4th of July that differ from your average day to day. So they are, making preparations to do their best to cover and monitor the situation. And we also have potential traffic emergencies, and quite a few things other than just what's happening in and around the beach area. There's highway patrol and the patrols of our roadways, I should say. So they are making plans to cover the city and all of the potential impacts.
And I talked about fire, I talked about police. One group in town that is going to be extremely busy this weekend are our lifeguards because our beaches get inundated with people, more people going into the water, more people taking risks. Um, kudos to the people on the beach that do such a great job for us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, um, Mark, you mentioned a minute ago you live downtown or near downtown. Can you feel the surge of tourism and visitors that are coming into town on a weekend like the 4th?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's gridlock. The roads, Glen Air, Catalina, and even up toward the high school. After the 4th or gridlock, I often wonder where people park, where all these cars are. It's as though we don't even have enough parking to handle them all, but somehow we do. I usually walk down to Main Beach and, see all the people, and it is extremely crowded. There's no doubt about it. So, and over the years, I will say over the years, I guess maybe the last 10, maybe 12 years, I have noticed, set aside 4th of July, I have noticed, significantly that the numbers have grown, that, what we refer to as day trippers has grown substantially, in my view, over the last, 12 or so years.
Well, I think the city has done a good job in attempting to get people to consider parking and trawling in before they ever get to town. I don't know how successful that is, but it's certainly noticeable right when you get on the 133 at the 405. I know there's a space there, then there's other spaces as you're coming down into town. Um, any checks on how successful those efforts have been?
We
The
should look at that data.
But there, I have Michael Litchi has given me some data over the last several months, and the summer breeze, which starts up in Irvine and comes down the canyon, those numbers have been growing. The trolley numbers, it depends on the timing and what you're looking at as far as the data set. But it is successful. Can we do better? I believe we can. Are there other opportunities? I definitely think there are other opportunities. I think that we can have a conversation with the county in the future and ask them to see, if they have some resources that they can make available to us, whether it's, a solution down at Salt Creek or another solution up in Irvine. So it's going to be a big conversation as we work our way through these to try to find solutions to some of the issues that we have. And, we also have our, what our environmental impacts, right? We have, I believe we have a opportunity in the future to talk about capacity. And when we talk to the Coastal Commission, I think I would like to open up that conversation and, let them, of course we have a responsibility to provide access to the beach, but we also have a responsibility, for our environmental resources. And we have to protect those, the tide pools, the open space, and the marine protected area. And in the past, I don't think that our conversations with the Coastal Commission have been broad enough. And I think that I would like to see that conversation broadened with the Coastal Commission and find solutions and work with them to find ways where we can protect our environmental resources.
One thing that the mayor and I have talked a lot about over the past months is our city manager, Dave Kiff. Dave has obviously spent a lot of years with the city of Newport Beach, which dealt with the Coastal Commission. Mayor Pro Tem, I would be interested in your thoughts on, just having Dave Kiff sitting at the helm of the city, basically in City Hall, and with his experience and everything. It's got to make you have some additional comfort, correct?
Oh, it's tremendous. He's very supportive. He's, always, he's got so much experience to bring to the table, right? A lot of advice. He's very supportive of all of the efforts that, all of the council members, are undertaking. We each have, various things that we're working on. And, I just couldn't imagine it being any better, to be honest with you. He's great.
Well, great. So we got a long weekend. Mayor, any big plans for you coming up on this weekend?
No big plans, just looking forward to celebrating the 4th of July.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, Tom, if I may, I'm just going to step back and I'd like the community, I'd like to share a bit of information with the community. There's been some conversation recently online, and I'd like to make some clarifications, if I may. The tourist marketing district, I had encouraged and asked the council if we could consider a 10-year contract. And there was, why are we doing 10 years? Nobody else does 10 years. Well, in fact, Anaheim, San Diego, their agreements are in the 30-year, 40-year range. But one of the motivators for me, and I look at Laguna Beach and we have three pillars. We have environment, culture, and heritage. So the stewardship program is not just about picking up trash on the beach and dealing with the surge impact of visitors to Laguna Beach. It's also, tourism has a way of chipping away at a community and starts to change the culture and the heritage, mainly the culture, right? So we've noticed our artists have been leaving the city. Affordability is an issue, right? We are having an issue retaining artists in the community. So one of the things that council's been working on is putting together a land trust. And I'm interested in taking that land trust and finding properties that, artists currently occupy. For instance, in the Canyon, we have many properties with many artists on them. So the idea is to see if this land trust can acquire some of these properties. Of course, the artists would still pay rents, right, to the land trust, but there would be a shortfall in revenues for those properties. And what this new contract with Visit Laguna does is Visit Laguna now gives 1/3 of their money roughly back to the city. And a portion of that money is assigned to going toward artist space, housing and artist space. So when I'd pitched some of these ideas to council, they said, well, this is wonderful, Mark, but if the city does in fact loan this land trust money, how are you going to pay us back? So I talked to several banks and, said, well, if I can show you that there's a source of revenue to make up the shortfall, can we make this happen? They said, well, what's your source of revenue? I explained it to them. They said, how long is it? I said, well, what would you like to be, would give you some comfort level? And reoccurringly and not surprisingly, the magic number was 10 years. So this revenue is would be a 10-year commitment. And I know that there's, a lot of mistrust in the whole, the notion of the stewardship program and Visit Laguna. And Visit Laguna, there's no doubt, years ago, I think, and when there were doing some inappropriate things that didn't make any sense to me. As far as some of their social media posts, no doubt. But now it's time to move ahead, change it, watch the organization pivot, completely transform into this new model where it focuses on just being the best we can be. And we don't need to worry about social media, in my view, at all. We can just put that behind us and support some of our environmental organizations, the Laguna Canyon Foundation, the Laguna Ocean Foundation. And if anybody has any questions, I encourage them to reach out to me personally. I intend to schedule some town hall meetings to really help people understand the reality of what this means and the benefits to Laguna. So I hope people can keep an open mind as we work through this and be a part of the conversation, so we can find solutions that are going to benefit Laguna Beach and not get drawn into this negative. What I find is really this negative, immature social media phenomenon that often becomes a distraction, in my view.
I think well said. I think we're probably all in agreement that at the end of the day, anything that we would do in promoting the city, um, it all has to do with our hotels. It again, it's not the people that are driving down the highways to come in and cause extra traffic. It's the people that come in and support those million-dollar investments that we get at places like the Ranch or some of the other hotels in town that make it so nice to enjoy those things. I went out on Father's Day weekend, had a wonderful brunch at the Ranch, went out and played 9 holes of golf there. You couldn't have asked for a better place to enjoy a Father's Day, with my daughter. It was fun. But it's those kind of things that we want to protect, those investments that those kind of people have committed to, and not so much that the people that are you know thinking about standing out on the canyon and counting the number of cars that are coming down the road and everything. That's not what any of us are, excited about, promoting. So, but I think well said. I think the stewardship, I think the long-term plan certainly makes sense. Mark, I appreciate you joining us this morning. Alex, it's good to have you back in town. It's nice to have somebody like the mayor pro tem that can step in behind you when you're out of town, and know that everything's going to move along swimmingly. So thanks both. Both of you have a great
Good.
fourth.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
both.
Thank you, Tom.